Hey, God bless you. It's been a while since I did a regular video. I want to do a series of 5 videos, and what I want to focus in on are particular instances in which God transformed my life. We talked about yesterday how God's grace is His transformative power in our lives. Sometimes people will talk about grace as if it's God's allowance for us to continue in sin, but I believe it's God's power to free us from sin and to free us from evil. So today I'm going to give you one of 5 ways in which God has done this in my life. I made a testimony video a while back, but I have a lot of new subscribers since then, and not everybody wants to watch a long video, so I'm going to do these in short clips. So the first one I'll tell you about is when God saved me from depression, anxiety, and suicide. So when I was about 20 years old, so that was roughly 15 years ago or so, I was in the military, and I had just gotten out of boot camp. I think this would be when I was about 19. I had just gotten out of boot camp, and I was staying at a family member's house because I was in another state, and my parents and my fiance at the time, they came to visit me. And that night that they came to visit, when we were staying there, I had a dream, and something happened in that dream. I felt a fracture in my spirit, a fracture in my personality, and I woke up and I felt something enter me, and I went into convulsions. And I wasn't sure really why I was convulsing. At the time, my spiritual eyes really weren't open. I thought maybe I was having a seizure. But from that day on, I began to go into a very deep depression. I began to have horrible anxiety. I began to have panic attacks. At night, I would feel as if something was holding me down and I couldn't breathe. So I ended up on quite a bit of medication, various antidepressants, sleeping medication, anti-anxiety pills. But the depression kept getting worse. And I would self-medicate by drinking every night. I was in the military, so that was pretty acceptable behavior anyway. After around a year or so after that time, I got married to who was my fiance. And just a little time after that, I ended up deployed to Kosovo. And while I was there, I found out that she committed adultery and quite a few things that weren't pleasant to find out, and the marriage didn't end up working out, and things just kind of fell apart. And this, of course, drove me into a deeper depression. I eventually found myself in Germany, and I was at a bar with a friend. We got into an argument. I had been drinking quite a bit, and that was compounded by the medications I was on. I remember running out of the bar and running down the street to a bridge that was overlooking a river. The bridge was quite a ways up, probably, 75 feet above the water. And I climbed over the ledge and I stood thinking about how hopeless the future was and how whatever lay beyond this moment, if I jumped, it couldn't possibly be any worse than if I had to continue to live in the torment that I felt. I felt numb and I felt empty. And as I prepared to jump, I felt arms wrap around me. And suddenly there was a woman standing there holding me. And I don't know to this day if it was an angel or a person, but they began to speak comforting words to me. And they held me there until the police came. The police dragged me off and I ended up in a hospital for a while. And life got better over time, and I ended up remarried and with children and a new life, but the depression continued and the anxiety continued and the panic attacks continued, and I continued to self-medicate with drugs and alcohol. And then after about a decade of that, I was woken up by the Lord and I began to submit myself to Him. I realized that I couldn't control my life, and I realized that it would only be His hand that could do anything good with me. And I began to submit everything. I didn't know what it would mean, but I knew that I needed Him. And it wasn't too long after I began this process that I had a dream. And over the years, I had many dreams of being possessed, but this time, as I dreamed of myself being possessed, I yelled out, "In the name of Jesus Christ, get out." And I heard a scream begin. And at first I thought it was me screaming. But then I woke up and I continued to hear the scream, but it wasn't coming from me. It was coming from something inside of me. And then this thing came out. And I saw it again. I woke up and saw this thing in my room again a couple nights later. And it disappeared, and I didn't see it again after that day, but I never again felt hopeless. Depression left. Anxiety left. The panic attacks left. You see, all these years, God had just been waiting for me to give Him my will. He wanted to free me all along from this demon. But He wouldn't overtake my will. He waited for me to realize that I needed Him, and the instant that I made that decision, He came to my rescue. So His transformative power, His grace, is enough to overcome the darkness that had plagued my life for 10 plus years. So I hope that helps someone out there who's struggling with the same thing. This is one instance of many, but I'm going to pick 5 of them to tell you about. So this is instance number 1. So I hope this helps, and I'll talk to you again soon, if not here, then in the air.